Hey everyone, I want to talk a little bit today about the distinctions between hurt and harm because they're different. And I don't know if any of you have ever had dental work done. I like probably one of my least favorite things in the world. But I've had to have several root canals in my life, and some of them have been because a tooth has died, and so a root canal has to be done, and the tooth itself isn't painful. I'm not having problems with it, but I have to go through the procedure. And of course, anyone that's had dental work knows that it can be painful. It can hurt. But if that is not done, a greater harm, there can be a harm in not having that addressed. Also, a couple years ago, I had an abscess tooth, which I had never had before, and oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. And so actually the procedure, the process of having the root canal was far less painful, hurt a whole lot less than the abscess itself. But again, without the hurt was an indication that something's wrong. Something that could cause harm is wrong, that needed to be addressed and dealt with. And of course, the process of dealing with that also hurt and caused some pain. But all of that hurt was necessary in order that harm would not happen. And so sometimes in life we can run from hurt, we can run from pain, we can avoid it, and it's actually an indication that there's something that needs to be addressed. And if it goes unaddressed, that a greater harm is going to occur. Like there's greater harm in not hurting and not going through a painful procedure or a painful process to address the hurt or to address a dead place, like my tooth was dead. Then so just ignoring that or not being willing to go through what may feel like a very painful or a painful process that hurts can actually cause greater harm down the road, whether we're aware of what that may look like or how that may show up in our lives or not. Hurts and pains that go unaddressed, they don't go away. They just cause greater harm. So I just really wanted to share that analogy, at least in the dental work. But there's lots of analogies that we can look to for that. Like at times, in order to prevent harm, something very painful or something that will hurt is necessary. Broken bones that could be painful to have. I've never had a broken bone, but to have that reset can be very painful. And yet, if that's not done, then greater harm will occur. So just pay attention to hurts and pains, things that bump up against you, that cause you to kind of flinch a little bit. And don't ignore them. Get before the Lord and ask what those things are, what that hurt is about that needs to be addressed and healed so that greater harm doesn't show up in your life down the road. You know, if you think about it, the truth of it is for most of us, our lives are such a mystery. There's so much about ourselves we don't even know or understand. And we're all just like a bunch of icebergs, you know, floating around in this big sea of the world. And we can see what's above the surface, but below the surface is a whole lot more that we don't know and we don't understand. And below the surface, we can bump into one another and we can make things shake above the surface, and we can, those things can hurt and, really shake us. But the bottom line is that we don't really know what's going on below the surface, but the Lord does. And so if we will get before Him and let Him talk to us about those things that are shaking above the surface, and let Him heal those things on our journey to wholeness and becoming fully who He intends us to be, then we will have a whole lot less harm from our lives and in our lives than if we just bury them and pretend that they don't exist. So I want to encourage you to notice those hurts and those shakings, and be willing to address the pain, address the hurt, and go to the place with the Lord where those things can be healed.